Hello and welcome to a new car review video on the channel, and welcome to the Lotus Emeya. If you're a regular viewer of the channel, you'll know I recently reviewed the Lotus Electra at Hethel in Norfolk at the main headquarters of Lotus, and I was really impressed with that. So I was really keen to get behind the wheel of the new Emeya. I saw it when I went to London to their main sort of showroom or sort of boutique store they've got down in the centre of London. I'll put some B-roll here in, and I also saw it at the Festival of Speed last year, and again really intrigued. It looked beautiful in the colours that they had it in, but then I was quite surprised that it was a bit of a soft launch, because there was only a press launch in Germany with Dutch registered cars. The only main video I saw that was a UK video was Auto Trader. So I was really keen to get a chance to have a go in the car, because I think it's not been widely shown in the press, or at least press that I've seen. So when I first saw it at the boutique store in London and also at the Festival of Speed, I was quite taken by it, which is interesting because it does go up against the Taken, and the reviews that I have seen, that's pretty much what they're benchmarking it against, and also the Audi GT. So first impressions are good. Build quality is as good as the Electra. Beautiful materials, lovely quality. You've got carbon fibre and Alcantara. It's very modern in terms of the interior design. I think it's one of the nicest interiors along with the Electra that I've been in. It's Lotus's sort of first saloon car since the amazing Lotus Carlton back in the day. It has got everything the Electra has, but of course it's in more of a body that arguably is a little bit closer to Lotus's heritage. So the Emeya continues Lotus's departure from its lightweight sports car heritage, but as I said, it's got that link to the Lotus Carlton, and also some of the sort of conceptual ideas that Colin Chapman had when he was looking at creating a big saloon car, and also things that they were doing with the Eclat and the Elite and that type of thing. So the Emeya follows the design language of the Electra, but refines it into a more sleeker saloon package. It's got a cab forward stance with sculptured active aero elements. It's got a two-stage rear wing. I think it's got an aggressive and also sophisticated look. It hasn't got the traditional Lotus badge on the back, but I do like the script, which I remember back from when I had my Elise. I think some people have said that they find the rear end a little bit underwhelming compared with a dramatic front end styling, but as a Lotus, long-time Lotus fan, I actually prefer the rear. I think that's got more in common with what I would expect from a Lotus, and the front lights have more of an electric vehicle look to them, so I think the back end to me carries the design language more. So what's it like to drive? Handling wise, I've found it quite sharp. For a 2.5 ton car, it turns in pretty well. Active rear steering does help and makes it feel smaller than it actually is. This S model doesn't have that, but the R model does. I think one of the things I have noticed is that you do feel as though you are sitting on it rather than in it. It does feel very similar to the Electra in terms of how high you're sitting up, even if you lower the seats down. I think to me that's the major difference between this and a Taycan. A Taycan you feel quite hunkered down, particularly in the GTS, whereas in this, even on the lowest seat setting, you still feel a little bit high. You probably can hear a few bings and bongs going off as well. That's obviously the driving assist that we all have to have these days in the UK and in Europe. You can switch them off, but I think it is a little bit of a reminder for me to say to you that this does feel like a very technologically advanced car. The infotainment system is the same as the Electra, but it's probably had a few improvements. We've got massage seats in here, we've got amazing air condition and a screen in the back for people to control that as well. So yeah, we've got a great head-up display that's got a good level of detail in terms of a little view of the car and what's coming towards us, the current speed limit, the current speed that we're doing, that kind of thing. Even the chimes from the indicators sound quite nice and unintrusive, not too harsh. I do like the shape of the steering wheel. A few people have said about that. It's obviously not round, it's kind of a little bit trapezoid possibly, but to me I think that's pretty cool. It does feel sporty, but it doesn't feel like it's trying to just mimic a sports car or a race car. It's got a bit of a vibe of its own, and I quite like how you can tell exactly where it is in terms of whether it's in the centre or whether you're turning slightly. Like with the Electra, this car is fitted with LiDAR, so it's kind of future-proofed as well. As soon as that sort of autonomous, is it level 5 possibly, is available, this has already got the hardware built in to be able to make use of that. I think one of the criticisms I did see on the Auto Trader video review was the torque steer while doing launch control. I think I'm not going to do a launch control today, but I think that's one of the things where maybe the Porsche software has the advantage of being able to manage that power. I think with this car, this is the S model, so we've got about 600 brake horsepower. I think the R might be up to the 800 or 900. Yeah, 900. But under acceleration, I haven't really experienced any problems in terms of it sort of torque steering or moving around a little bit too much. Let's give it a bit of a blip along here. Yeah, it's got that electric car torque. It certainly picks up very well, but it didn't squirm at all. So I think, yeah, maybe sometimes the R models are just pushing it a little bit too far. Maybe the technology can't control it, or maybe the chassis can't control it. So, but with the S, it seems really well managed, and it certainly has a lot of power, a lot of torque, but it doesn't seem to unsettle the car maybe as much as the R does in the reviews. So maybe the 600 mark is the sweet spot for this particular chassis. The S model, which is this model, is around the £100,000 mark, and then the R is around 130. So they are that bit cheaper than the Taycan. And the base model is around 90,000, which again comes in a little bit cheaper than the Taycan that it's up against. Lotus promises quite fast charging with these as well. It's got some of the latest charging technology, so it can go from 20 to 80% pretty quickly. I don't know the exact figure, but if you can find the latest generation of fast chargers, this car is designed to work with those. One other thing I have noticed is when you lift off, you've got regenerative braking, which I think is quite nice. I found it quite confidence inspiring. It doesn't feel intrusive, but it just feels as though you know you're in a heavy car, but it just feels as though it's managing the weight for you as you actually, when you're under braking. As I said, it's a 2.5 ton car, which is about 300 kilos more than the equivalent Taycan. But I think the electronics are pretty smart, and it's managing that pretty well. I think because you're in a saloon car, you don't expect it to be light. I think if we were in a 2-door car, you'd probably think, oh, it feels a little bit heavy. But because we're in a saloon car, so if you're in something like an RS6 or something like that, they're not light either. So I think because of the nature of the shape of the car, and you know that it's a 4-seater, you kind of expect that. And I think the regenerative braking helps to manage it pretty well. So let's talk about some specs then, for those people that like the specs. It's based on Geely's electric premium architecture, built in Wuhan in China. It's a dual motor all-wheel drive system. You get 21-inch wheels as standard on the S, and of course larger wheels are optional. But I think these wheels are good because they're a bit of a sweet spot for the range and also the ride quality. So the brakes are steel on the base models and the S, and carbon ceramics on the R. I'm really impressed with the screen. Obviously there's a lot going on there, and I probably would find it difficult to actually navigate while I'm driving, but I do like the minimal instrument cluster that we've got in front of us while we're driving. So yeah, I think I'd probably personally leave a lot of the interaction with the screen until I was parked, but yeah, you have got a good amount of information on the smaller instrument binnacle as well, so I'd probably leave all of the nav and stuff, all that, to the passenger. It's a really high quality, bright 15.1 inch display. Graphically, it uses Unreal Engine, and yeah, it looks ultra modern, really sharp, cool, and all of the connectivity that you would expect. We've also got USB-C in the center console as well for charging your phone. The screen reacts really well and really quickly. I think they've done some updates on that, and it's nice that the air conditioning is always available, so you can always get to it. The instrument bar across the bottom allows you to navigate between what are quite complicated screens, but the navigation between them is quite good and quite quick. I'm sorry to sound a little bit old-fashioned, but this car does have traditional mirrors, whereas the Electra that I drove at Hethel had the digital camera mirrors, and I do feel as though I do like these mirrors. I know the advantage of the camera ones are that there's less drag, and also to some extent they're better at night. You can have a better vision at night, but I do prefer looking out the window and seeing a traditional mirror, and they are a very expensive option. So things that I like, it's really got amazing acceleration, and I think it's got really good stability as well. I do like the ride. I think we've been on some fairly bad road surfaces on these country roads, but I think it does create a nice compromise between comfort and performance. So I think with this S model, they've hit the sweet spot. It's soaking up the bumps pretty nicely, but it does feel firm and taut when we're turning into corners with a bit of speed. Yeah, I'm currently set on Tour, and we've got a range of drive modes accessible by the paddles. We've got Sport as well, which actually tightens the bolsters up on the seat when we go into Sport, and I quite like that. It's pretty cool. So you can feel it going from the Tour, where it feels like just a bit of a comfortable dad's car, to switch it into Sport, and the seat grips me, which I don't know, I haven't had that on cars before, but I still think that's pretty cool. We've got individual setting as well on the drive mode, so we can tailor that and set that up to exactly how we want it. We've also got range as well, so obviously that gives you a little bit more range, and we saw that in the Taycan as well. We've got fast charging, as I mentioned. I've not been able to try that, but that is a good option. So it's kind of future-proofed in a way, so that we can get this from 20% to 80% pretty quickly. Something else that I really like, I do like the feeling of solidity and high quality that we get in here. It's not traditionally what you would expect from a Lotus, but I think the build quality feels fantastic. It's on a par with Taycan in terms of the interior quality, and I think in terms of like its architecture or its designiness in here, I think it's a step ahead from Taycan. There's absolutely no rattles and squeaks in here. It feels solid, but nothing's squeaking, nothing's jarring. It feels really well put together, as you would expect from a £100,000 car, but you don't always get. I think the steering is engaging, and the handling is great as well. So does it feel like a Lotus then? Well, I suppose yes and no. I think it does feel like a big electric car, but I think you can still feel that some of the engineers and chassis dynamics experts at Lotus have breathed on it. It's never going to feel like an Elise or an Exige, but I think considering what it is, they've done a pretty good job of making it drive as close to a sports car as you could hope for. So things that I don't like then, possibly the rear visibility is a little bit low, and I think the thing that I don't like is probably the fact that we sit too high up. I think I do miss that from the Taycan, sitting that little bit lower. But then again, in the Taycan you haven't got the bolsters that grip you when you switch it into Sport, so it's kind of taking in one hand and giving with the other. So yeah, if I could maybe make them a bit lower, maybe that would solve the problem. So I think also in the looks, the body does look taller from the side, so it does feel like a bit of a halfway house between the Electra and the Taycan. So yeah, we're sitting higher, but we're also, it looks higher as well. So maybe that's a limitation of the architecture that they've used, that maybe some elements are carried over from the Electra, I don't know. So to sum up then, I do like the Emeya, probably more than I expected to. It's kind of moving in the right direction back towards the type of thing that Lotus have done, like with the Lotus Carlton. If you have a bit more of an open mind and you look at the whole range of things that Lotus have done over the years, I don't see why it can't fit into the range. Okay, it's never going to be an Exige, it's slightly different, but I think there is Lotus DNA here, and I think you can't deny that. And I think if you do, you're just probably a little bit too much on the Lotus purist angle, or a purist from Elise onwards, and you're forgetting a lot of the stuff that they did before, like the Eclat and the Elite. So that's about it for this video. Thanks very much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you get the chance, and hit the notification bell. Plenty more car reviews and other type of car stuff to come. So thanks for watching, and bye for now.
At 29 and I find myself wondering, what did happen to the last 10? I ran away with my life, fast forward, never turn back again. It's kind of funny that the more we pass time, the more we need to set the rewind.